Hello and very good afternoon to everybody. I'm your host, Prashik Walke. Thank you for joining us for today's PATUS webinar under the Air Introduction to Software Defined Radio. Before we get started, uh, please let me take a few minutes to introduce PATU. PATU is research-powered cybersecurity consulting firm. We have a decade-long track record with a singular focus on cybersecurity. PATU's impact is delivered every day through our three verticals. Number one, community and conference. PATU runs hardware.io, a hardware security focused conference along with other initiatives. Number two, consulting and training. We primarily focus on offensive security assessments. Number three is products. PATU has also released two products in a private beta trials, exploitative firmware analysis framework and CloudFuzz, an advanced fuzzing framework. This slide is an overview of various consulting assessments we execute for our customer across the globe. We have also delivered talks and workshops worldwide in some of the top security conferences like Black Hat, DEF CON, etc. This has been our decade-long impact to contribute to robust cybersecurity community in India and globally. Without further ado, let's get started with our webinar. Today's speaker, Apar, is Associate Consultant IoT Security at PATU. You can read about his many wonderful accomplishments on this slide. Before I hand over to Apar, few housekeeping tips. Please be on mute. If you have a question, you can write it in the chat box. We will answer the questions during the few intervals or towards the end of the webinar. The recording will be released later via our LinkedIn page. So please make sure you are following PATU on LinkedIn. Appa, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for your introduction, Rashik. Now let's start with the webinar for today, and the topic for the webinar is Under the Air. So my name is Apar. So I am an associate consultant IoT security at PATU, and I also look after the RF research and the RF security part. So without further ado, let's start. So so as I said, the topic for today is Under the Air, which is an introduction to software-defined radios. So I will start with a quick question for you all. How many of the attendees, like I can see around 18 participants, including me. So can you tell me how many of you are already aware of what SDR is, or have uh, uh, like some prior knowledge to this field? So if uh, you have worked on it before, you can give a +1 or a 0. All right, so I see 1 +1s and 2 zeros. All right. All right. All right. So I think that was more than enough. So I feel like there are a lot of newcomers, but you know, some lads who have previously worked on the SDRs as well. So let's get started with the webinar. So what are we going to cover in this webinar? We'll be starting from what is radio frequency, what is electromagnetic spectrum, the basic of electromagnetics that you would have probably learned about in your high school. Then we'll go into signals and signal processing. What are the different kind of signals out there? And what are the basic signal processing techniques that you need to know in order to get started with software defined radio? So as I said, software defined radio is not to be honest, not a kind of skill that you can actually pick up in a week or two. You need to have a strong understanding of the underlying basics, which is usually your basics related to communications as well as related to your signal processing. And Next, we will see what software-defined radio is. So where did it originate from and how it has actually evolved through all these years. Then we'll look at the tools of trade. So first we'll go into what hardware options are available there in the market, and why you should pick one, basically what suits you better than the other. How does one suit you better than the other? Uh, Moving on, we have the tools of trade for the software. Since software is an integral part, as it goes in the name itself, software defined radio. So next we will look into what are the options of different software tools that are available there for analysis, and how is one tool different from the other when it comes to all these software tools available. We'll then discuss what should be the approach of analysis, like when you're doing a uh, like RF analysis, what is it that you should take care of, and uh, like what are the overheads that are included in the analysis. Then we have a small demonstration wherein I'll show you these approach hands-on. Then we'll finish up with what is wireless security, because because I feel wireless security is a highly overlooked part of the entire ecosystem. And we'll discuss what are the different techniques, or what are the things to look out when we are performing, uh, like we are developing either a radio or we are trying to protect a RF communication. And then we'll uh, go over some popular hacks that have happened in the past. So now moving on, what is electromagnetic waves? So, in a nutshell, electromagnetic waves are all around us. It is just a combination of oscillating magnetic waves and electric field together, resulting in the creation of electromagnetic waves. So, these waves are always around us, be it in space, be it on this planet Earth. It's just the difference that uh, each electromagnetic wave is different from the other. By that I mean there are different type of electromagnetic waves that are present uh, around us. So, so this is a small visual representation of an electromagnetic wave, which you probably would have seen uh, in your high school days. So now we'll see what electromagnetic spectrum is. So an EM spectrum is basically a different, basically a range or a collection of all these different electromagnetic waves. So each electromagnetic type of, basically each EM wave is different from the other based on the characteristics like wavelength, based on the characteristics like the frequency and the energy. So which is anyway a byproduct of the frequency and amplitude. So as you can see in this GIF, what we usually observe, or what is visible to us, is the visible light, which lies somewhere in the between of this EM spectrum. And as you can see, with us going from left to right, the frequency of the waves is increasing. So, uh, so the question might arise: where is our interest in this? This is a very broad spectrum, and uh, where is RF actually? So the RF basically lies uh, on the right hand side of this EM spectrum, which actually neighbors the infrared uh, infrared light. So it starts from what do you call, the microwaves, and it goes all way to the gamma waves. So here's a small snippet of all the different uh, classes that there are, or all the different type of EM waves that exist. So as you can see, it starts from uh, the gamma rays, goes to the X rays, then comes our uh, visible light. So this is the one that we are usually aware of or we usually see. Then at 300 gigahertz starts the radio waves that we are going to discuss today. So as you can see, it starts from a frequency range of 300. Uh, I'm sorry, it ends at a frequency range of 300 gigahertz and it starts from 300 hertz, which stands for ULF, which is ultra low frequency, and it goes all the way to EHF, which is extremely high frequency. So these are the frequency range which basically comprises of our radio waves. So we'll be mostly interested in this part, and rest of the part we can ignore for the time being. So let's start with what is. So let's start with what is digital signal processing, and how is it going to help us in order to understand SDR. So what pointers are we going to basically cover in digital signal processing is what is digital signal processing, what are the different processing chains that are involved in DSP. So I'm going to use DSP further since digital signal processing is a long word. So consider this as like a short form for digital signal processing. So how DSP can assist us in processing communication systems, DSP and software defined radio, how are they correlated? And then we'll look into something which is very important, and that is the relationship between the time, frequency, and the space domain. So, to be honest, I cannot cover the entire like all the things that are involved in DSP. The reason being, DSP is a very vast subject, and I had almost a year with DSP, like 2 semesters uh, in during my engineering days, of which one was signals and systems, and the second was digital signal processing. So 2 years of not actually 2 years, but 1 year and 2 semesters of signal processing is hard to explain in 1 hour webinar, but I'll try to cover most of the things that you will need in order to have a basic understanding when you are starting out with software defined radios. So what is digital signal processing? So in a layman language, you can call it a series of mathematic operations where a sequence of numbers, which are samples in our case, are processed in such a way that the desired output is achieved in the system. Um, as I said earlier, DSP is a fundamental block in many fields in communication system. So it is basically how we basically compute, and to be very precise, numerically compute a sequence of numbers, which as we go further are called samples. And basically the numerical computation of these samples in order to get some kind of desired output is DSP in a nutshell. It is digital signal processing. So digital signal processing is everywhere where there is radio. So you can observe it in your telecom sector, uh, be it your radar, sonar, audio processing, be it the satellite communication, and everything where there is the air used as a medium for communication. So DSP is present almost everywhere. I hope the slide is all right. Now it would be clear. So now what are the different processing chains that are involved in digital signal processing? So the very first stage in digital signal processing is when we select the carrier. The first phase is called the carrier select. So in here, what we do, as we can see, just a second, let me pull out my pen. Yeah, so as you can see, yeah, so as you can see, yeah, where is the pen? Yeah, here it is. So as you can see, there are 2 frequencies in our case, which is F1 and F2. So what the carrier select phase of signal processing is, uh, we are most interested, let's say, in processing a frequency f1. So what we'll do is we'll perform an operation where the frequency f1 is only like f1 is only taken inside, or taken or considered basically. So for that we can use techniques like filtering, low pass filters or high pass filters or whatever, and we can basically clear out the other frequency from the scenario. So it is something like removing the other unwanted frequencies and taking only the frequency that we are interested in. So that is our step one, which is the carrier select. So once we have like selected that, yeah, we are interested in uh, basically our frequency f1. So what we do is we take that frequency f1. This is dc, and dc basically stands for baseband level. So what we do is we like use a complex mixer, and the thing of complex mixer is it basically brings the frequency on the level of baseband where we can start the further processing of the signal. So once, as you can see, it is uh, right at the 0 point, which is our baseband level. From there, we can start the further processing of the signal, which is filtering out. So for filtering, this is the third step of the process chain. So for filtering, what is usually done is we are mostly interested in some parts, or the some particular amplitude of a frequency. So the filter basically uses different techniques again that we are going to discuss further, and it gives us a desired signal that we can take further to process. So here again, techniques like uh, basically a filter can be used, be it a high pass. Generally a low pass filter is used in this case. So a filter will basically wash away the different samples, as we saw in the previous slides, or the different numerical elements uh, from this signal, and will have our signal finally in the decimation state. So this is our desired signal, which we have actually extracted via performing digital signal processing on it. So this was a quick overview of what are the different steps involved in digital signal processing. I just gave you a small overview of what it is, but there are a lot of different techniques that are used, and basically a lot of overhead that is included when you're doing a digital signal processing. So that was something in a nutshell. So now we'll see how DSP can assist us in processing communication system. I hope the theory is not boring, because it is again the mandatory part, and it is mandatory to code this before I can move on to the fancy things. So what I'd suggest is having some background of digital signal processing before starting out in software defined radios, so that you can go in depth of the topic. So communication system, uh, so I'll quickly tell you what a communication system is. I hope most of you are aware of it already. Yeah. So let's say this is machine M1, this is machine M2. So I'll just quickly guide you through a few different terminologies that we are going to face when we move further. So if a machine M1 wants to talk to a machine M2, it will send the message and it would receive an answer. So if in this kind of scenario, if it is happening one at a time, let's say both of them cannot send the signal at the same time. First, M1 has to send it to M2, and then M2 sends the response to M1. This kind of method of talking is called simplex. Simplex, wherein one message is transmitted at a time and one message, on receiving of that message, the response is sent. So in a scenario where both the machine can talk to each other simultaneously, so M1 is able to talk to M2 and M2 is able to talk to M1, which is generally a scenario we usually encounter in mobile communication, where we talk to someone and we can listen to their responses at the same time. So such kind of uh, uh, mode of communication is called duplex, and it is, to be precise, full duplex, where both the parties can exchange their messages or their data at the very same time. So this was for what simplex and duplex is. Uh, this will probably help us when we move further. So how can DSP assist us in processing communication systems? So digital signal processing has always been there, where there has been communication system, as I told earlier. So with an SDR and a good DSP, we can write and test new DSP algorithms on the go. So uh, I don't know how many of you did see it, but there was a leaked video from uh, some Israeli military defense or something, like their DoD or something. Their basically their defense research, and in the video there were leaked screenshots of them using GNU Radio Companion, which is uh, a software defined radio tool again. So they are trying out their different newly generated communication systems using DSP. So DSP has always been there when you are either writing a new DSP algorithm or be testing out existing algorithms. So now we come to the most juicy part, but at the same time very difficult part if you have not like ever basically came across the digital signal processing. So now we'll talk about what is time, what is frequency, and what is space. So uh, I hope that everyone is uh, aware of what frequency is. If not, you can drop in the chat box and I can give you a quick explanation of what frequency is and what amplitude is before starting this topic. Again, if you know the what is frequency and what is amplitude, you can put in a 1, or rest. If you don't know about it, you can put a 0. All right, so I see a lot of ones coming in. All right, so I'm assuming that most of you are aware of what frequency and amplitude is. So uh, I think I can skip that part for timing. So uh, let us take this scenario and uh, let us imagine this. No, it feels like giving a math lecture right now. So let us imagine this as three axes. This let us call this as x-axis. This is looking like x, but this is actually y-axis. And let us consider this as z-axis. So now each axis is representing an entity. So in this scenario, the x-axis is representing the time. Let's say the y-axis is representing the amplitude, and the z-axis is representing the frequency. So I hope there is no problem in like doing an assumption till now. So this is basically the amplitude of the signal, which is denoted by y. X is denoting the time, and z is denoting the frequency, the different frequencies. So when we like in a nutshell, when we are doing digital signal processing and when we want to know different aspects of a signal, what we are most interested in is the relation between these axes in a nutshell. So uh, these different correlationship, in totality it is called the FFT, which is the fast Fourier transform, and uh, there is something called the IFFT, which is the inverse Fourier transform, which we are not going to touch upon in this session right now, because that would start a total different realm of signal processing, and we'll probably miss out on the software defined radios. But you know just to make it clear before moving further, the correlation between these different axes give us the data that we need when we are doing the software defined radio analysis or the SDR analysis. So this is the major part that consists of the digital signal processing. So now uh, there is something, like for example, you can probably note it down if you are very interested in this. So the relation between the x and the y-axis is called the time domain plot, because it is a relation between the amplitude and the time. So the relationship between x and y is called the time domain plot. uh, the relationship between the x and z axis, which is the time and the frequency, is called the waterfall model or the spectrogram, which we'll see as we go further what it is. And the relationship between the y and the z axis, which is the relationship between the amplitude and the frequency, is called the your frequency plot basically. So the purple window that you see on the left side, can anyone answer me in the chat? Can anyone in the chat answer me that what the purple window signifies basically? All right, I see one answer. All right, exactly. Exactly. So what we see in the purple window is basically the time domain perspective of uh, these two different waves that we are encountering right now, these two different signal. The green one is a different signal and the purple one is a different signal, just to be clear. So what we see in the purple window is basically the time domain perspective uh, of the visualization. So uh, on the same hand, you can see that the waveform has certainly changed, uh, like from what they were previously. So yeah, there is an addition of two waves happening at the same time in this time domain perspective. And so whatever is the there's this small tip or this small thing that I remember from the college, like the addition in the time domain becomes the multiplication in the frequency domain. It is again the concept of FFT while doing FFT. So now coming to the right side, what we see is basically frequency domain representation, and both signals are sort of multiplied, but they are again uh, like uh, what do you call it, they're basically frequency separated, or there is some sort of frequency split multiplication that is happening in this scenario. So again, just to make a small overview of whatever we saw, the digital signal processing thing in the software defined radio is just the correlation between these three axes, the different views that we are going to see as we move on further. Okay, so this is still on. Mhm. All right. So software defined radio is not a fancy term, but a term which has gained a lot of popularity now, but it has been already been worked upon from like I suppose 80s or something, or even before that. But it has come to trend right now because the softwares are more reachable, they are open source, and same goes for the hardware front end. They are not as expensive or as bulky as they used to be previously, and anyone can access and get hold on to these devices. So the software defined radio is not a new term. It was coined by Joseph Mottola, and in a nutshell, what it means is basically a radio environment uh, that has a mix of all front end devices, which is your amplifiers, mixers, IQ units, CPLD, modulators, demodulators, none of which we are going to see right now what is exactly, because um, we are not going to cover how to design a software radio, but actually how to use it. So these are the different things that go into the front end, and using different numerical computations, all these separate or individual components can be uh, fit into one FPGA chip that does it all. In hardware, and the operation of all these equipments, including but not limited to signal processing, is done by software, which is again, as I said, the integral part of SDR. So what is software defined radio is again the question uh, which arises, uh, because mainly software defined radio was not always there. There was analog radio, which had its own era. So during the World War I, World War II, uh, different radio elements were used, which were actually hardware radio elements, and they were used for the communication purposes, and mostly communication purposes, in order to send messages from one army post to the other army post, and vice versa. So now this new wave of hardware, which includes very high speed FPGAs, have kind of replace that. And they you don't need all the separate components. For example, your amplifiers, your mixers, your filters, everything can be done either virtually. You do the virtualization on the software, or either on the hardware, which supports again high computation, since FPGA is present on it. So this is a basic block diagram of what software defined radio looks like. So as you can see, it consists of an antenna. It consists of a, RF hardware, which is our RF front end, which has the elements, as you can see, ADC and DAC on board itself. Like hardware elements have everything in that. So now this is the digital front end, which is basically all the data that comes in is again analog in nature. So ADC converts that analog data, then channelizes, does sampling on that, since analog data has to be converted to digital data. Then other processing happens depending on what software and hardware do you club together. So based on that, this field is defined, because there are two types of software defined radio elements. In some, you have the processing and everything on board, and on the software or on the user desktop, all you get are the output or the results. And on the other, simply the analog to digital conversion takes place, and the software takes care of the rest. So in the first one, in the former one, what I just said, the pro is that you don't have to deal with all the mess. You don't have to deal with all the signal processing. You just simply get the result. And one good example of that is a tool called RFCAT, which does everything on board and just gives you the result. On the other hand, if you're using any front end, like your hack RF with your GNU radio companion, you'll have to take care of all the digital signal processing that is happening. So if you want to get your hands dirty, if you want to have a lot of possibilities, if you want to try out and see all the different uh, aspects of the signal, then definitely the second method is recommended. But for that, again, you need a little understanding of digital signal processing. So this was an overview of what blocks are involved in a software defined radio. Now we come to what are the tools of trade, are the different um, what are the different options available for the SDR front end. So again, there are a lot of SDR front end out there, but uh, we will pick whatever will suit our requirements. And you can go crazy and buy a 35 lakh Indian rupees SDR front end, or something as cheap as 16,000 Pluto AdLam can help you out in the same scenario. So it again depends on the requirement of the assessment and whatever that you're trying to achieve. So you can consider the following points, and I'll just quickly go over on them one by one. So first is the operating frequency range. So um, that is where most of the SDR hardware is differentiated, because each hardware cannot have the same frequency range. And by frequency range, I mean, let's say, for example, your hack RF has a frequency range starting from 1 megahertz to 6 gigahertz. 6 gigahertz is achievable with some with some hi-fi antennas, but it is normally up till like 3 gigahertz that is in practical. So the difference lies in what is the frequency range of the assessment that you want to carry on. So next is the receiving bandwidth. So you know by bandwidth, what I mean is, there is your data spread on the frequency spectrum, or it is known as spread spectrum. So now it's on your hardware capability, how much data can it, or how much bandwidth can it receive at one time. So that what again makes the difference when you're choosing hardware element, basically. So each hardware has different receiving bandwidth capacities, and you might consider, if you are doing something on an ISM band, which is the industrial science and medicine band. So I don't think a lot of RX bandwidth would be required. But if you are going for something like a sonar or a radar design or something like that, so RX bandwidth matters a lot in that case. So next is the ADC resolution. So this is again what defines the performance of a SDR hardware, is like the analog to digital conversion. How much conversion can it do in a specific period of time, because you don't want your samples to get dropped because of some slow computation. So ADC resolution is again something which is very important while considering SDR. Next is your transmitting and receiving capabilities. So now the options available out there, um, for example, your RTL SDR dongle. So it can only receive, but it cannot transmit. Then, which makes it uh, liable to only doing analysis, and you cannot perform any kind of attack or something. You can just analyze whatever is out there. Next is your next SDR, for example, your Hack RF1. So Hack RF1 has receiving and transmitting capabilities. So it can receive as well as it can transmit, which gives it an edge over the RTL SDR dongle that we just talked about. And then you have the more expensive ones, which can do the transmitting and receiving both at the same time. So this comes in picture when you are doing something like what can you say, basically a telecom security assessment or something. If you're creating a big fake base station, you need to transmit and receive at the same time. So for that, there are more expensive or more advanced SDR front end available out there. for example, your USRP or your Blade RF. And then there is the cost, which obviously matters if you are a enthusiast and you are basically doing everything on your own. Cost really does matter, and the uh, cost varies from the all the all the above parameters as well. So if there is a high ADC resolution in a SDR, so it is definitely going to cost you a lot more than the lower one. And cost is again something to consider while choosing an SDR, obviously. So the popular SDR front end out there are RTL SDR, which goes by the model number RTL 820T2. This is basically, I'd suggest something that a beginner can get his or her hands onto, because it can only do um, it can only do the receiving part. So it is uh, basically your simplex kind of SDR hardware. So you can basically receive, and you cannot do any kind of transmission, but it is good for starting out because the cost is low and the performance, to what I have seen, is pretty decent. So this is for someone who is new to getting started with the SDRs. Then comes HackRF1. So all these are phases. Once you are pretty handy and you know the usage of the software tools that are out there, you can then switch to HackRF1. HackRF1, why? Because it has transmitting capabilities, and it has an onboard FPGA, which makes computing a lot more easier. And again, the points that I just mentioned, it has a good ADC resolution, so you get a better signal reception as compared to the RTL dongle that we saw. Then there are other good options, and like my personal favorite is the Adlam Pluto, because it is like good for the price that they sell it. It is around 20k INR in Indian rupees, and it is very decent as compared to blowing around, I guess, 35 or 40,000 for a Hack RF1. Then comes the Blade RF if you want to do, if you want to do transmitting and receiving at the same time. And then if you have a lot of money, you can probably put in USRP, which is a research grade SDR, which usually is used by the Department of Defense and all the different RF researchers out there. So the price range for USRP starts from, I guess, 80 or 90,000 Indian rupees, and it goes all the way to 50 lakh rupees. So here are a few uh, basic you know differences that all these SDR front ends have. So you can basically, based on your requirement, choose your SDR. So now let's talk about antennas. So antennas are also a very integral part when we are talking about the uh, SDR, like the hardware. So I'll quickly go through what you want to consider in an antenna. Is the antenna gain. So basically, antenna gain is a power of how much can the uh, antenna, what is the power of the antenna of reception. Then the aperture is what field can it basically, uh, like what is the field that it can basically capture at a particular instance. Directivity and bandwidth. Again, directivity is, let's say the signal is coming from north and the antenna is pointed to the south, so the directivity would tell us the performance measure of whether can that antenna receive that signal or not, which is basically, if it is basically the direction of arrival that defines the directivity and bandwidth. And again, the effective line, the more longer the antenna, the better the reception. So there are again different types of antenna. For example, a Yagi antenna and the telescopic antenna. So I don't think antenna is something that someone want to get into when they are starting with software defined radios. It is uh, like when you're doing more further advanced research that you look into the antennas. So now we'll see the tools of trade. What are the options available, uh, like in terms of the software that you can use. First is the GQRX or the SDR hash. Both are uh, more or less the same softwares. So these are basically spectrum analyzers that you can use to browse the spread spectrum based on the frequency. You can basically do a recon using these softwares, and it basically gives you the operating frequency of the target, whatever frequency the target is using. As you can uh, when we'll probably see the demo, you'll be able to understand why. It also gives a waterfall model, so you can use that for your signal analysis as well. So waterfall model helps in visual analysis, uh, which is another way of identifying what signal is being transmitted if it is a blind signal analysis. So we'll not discuss that further, but it is a very useful tool when you're doing a recon on your SDR target. So it comes with demodulators for FM, CW, and FM, and it has also uh, functionality wherein you can capture a signal. So this is this is what a GQRX basically looks like, and you have this uh, plain white area where plain the gray area where you can see the power and the correlation between the power and the frequency. So amplitude and frequency, basically where you can get an understanding of um, whether on what frequency does the target basically is transmitting the signal. Then on the this black portion you see a waterfall model, which we are going to look into when we do the demonstration. From from here you can change the mode or the modulation. You can change the gain from here, just giving you an overview of the tool. And then using the record functionality, you can also record a signal. um, Depending on your requirement, you can either record it as a .wav file, um, and if you are interested in the samples, then you can record it as a .bin file as well. Next tool that we are going to look at is Audacity. So Audacity is probably one of the favorite tools that, like if you play a wireless CTF or a signal reversing challenge, Audacity is something that you will always keep in handy. So it is a multi-channel audio editing tool, which has again radio analyzing capacity. It was not actually made to analyze radio in the first place, but uh, since the audio editing capacity of Audacity makes it stand out from the other processing tools out there, so it is very popular amongst the wireless CTF or signal reversing players. So again, it is open source and it is available for Linux and Windows, both of them. Previously, GQRX is available for Linux and SDR Sharp is available for Windows. So it does not do any signal capturing. It only edits, or you can process capture.wave, which is the audio format of a signal, and then you can, you know, find the patterns, or let's say if an image is being transmitted in the signal, so you can probably spot that out using Audacity. So next comes the big fish, which is the GNU Radio Companion. We are already 1 hour up, so I'll quickly try to sum it in next, let's say 20 minutes or so. So next is the GNU Radio Companion, which is a open source and the one of the most popular SDR tools available out there. So it has, uh, you know, basically endless digital processing modules, which you call blocks. And for example, it has filters, decoders, demodulators, it has slider elements, it has sources, sinks, which you can use in order to analyze a signal, replay a signal, do whatever is in scope of your assessment, or basically whatever you want to do. So it works with all the major SDR hardware that is out there. And they have actually extended this. They have recently moved on to GNU Radio 3.8, which is the latest release by GNU Radio team, and they have also released it for the Android, and they call it GNU Radio Companion Android, which I have actually personally not used yet, but to what I've heard, that it has some very basic but very impressive, signal processing and SDR operations. So that was for the tools, and which we saw digital signal processing. We saw basically what tool in hardware and software can you use. Now we look at what the approach of the attack should be. So basically there are two ways of approaching a target. So let's say if uh, there is some there is some signal that is being transmitted on uh, let's say 300 megahertz. So now there are basically two ways that I can analyze the signal and get the best out of it. One is the active signal analysis, and the other is the passive signal analysis. So in active signal analysis, what I do is I do everything on the fly, which means I simply connect my SDR hardware to my computer. I do basically a spread spectrum analysis. Basically, I search at what frequency is the signal being transmitted. I take a look at what is the waterfall plot looking like. I can later use that waterfall plot in order to compare what different signals have different kind of waterfall plot and correlate to it. I can record that signal as well. But what is the major part of active signal analysis is we do everything on a live signal. And in passive signal analysis, what we do is we first take a dump of that signal. We take a lot of samples from the live signal, and then we later do a signal analysis on that. So both of these ways of signal analysis have their own pros and cons. But it basically depends on what assessment are you doing. So again, if there is some real time changes happening in the signal, then active signal analysis is what is preferred over passive. But if the same thing is being transmitted again and again, you can probably go for a passive signal analysis, get a dump of that signal, and perform signal processing to get the data out of it. So that was the two approaches. So now, if let's say I'm doing basically a signal analysis, a basic signal analysis, regardless of whether it is an active one or a passive one. So what I do when I do a signal analysis, first is the RF signal capture. So what involves in RF signal capture is spread spectrum analysis. In spread spectrum analysis, all the frequencies that are spread over the spectrum, we just browse through all those frequencies. We see which has the most power, most amplitude. So we know that some amplitude change or some sort of power change is happening on a particular frequency. So that is the first step where we identify the frequency. So spread spectrum analysis is the point where we identify the frequency of a signal. Then once we have identified the frequency, we go for the demodulation. So the demodulation, if you're using a tool like GQRX, it is basically a hit and try approach, because you cannot directly until unless you are pretty familiar with how waterfall plots look like for a signal, you cannot basically make out what a signal is. So you in a this I'm talking in regard to a blind signal analysis. So you do a change in modulation. You change from going from narrowband FM demodulator to an AM demodulator to a CUB demodulator, and so on and so forth. So wherever you get to, uh, you know, get uh, a tangible waterfall plot, so that is your demodulation. So demodulation is basically uh, something which is again a hit and try approach if you're doing a blind signal analysis. Next is capturing the bit streams to packets. So again, as I said, if you're doing a passive signal analysis, so what you will be doing is capturing all the bit stream, all the samples that are coming through from your SDR front end into a packet, and which can be in form of .bin. You create a binary of bit stream that is coming in, and you can store it. You can perform signal analysis on it, and later you can get whether the data is in there or not. So you create the packet, the packet creation is done, then you probably modulate it again, and then you can do an RF transmission. So this is basically in a nutshell a replay attack. uh, or if you want to tamper the packet, you are more welcome to do that as well. So a replay attack can be done by like skipping all these steps using some tools like URH, which is a universal radio hacker. So for that, you can simply capture a signal and do a retransmission. So it is as easy as that. But if you want to do some minor tweaks in that signal, this is the preferred approach. So now the question comes, how are we being like, how can we find the frequency that the signal is being transmitted at? So let's say if it is an IoT device that is functioning in the ISM band. So in order to know the frequency of that device, you can do a documentation analysis, which is you can go through the spec sheet of uh, that particular IoT device, and you can find out what is the frequency that it is operating at. So that will help you to understand what frequency should you see in your basically target in your spread spectrum. Then next is assessing the product. So what I mean by assessing the product is basically, looking at the product. There must be some code which is called the FCC ID, which is generally mandatory for all the US based vendor if they are doing, or if you want to sell in US as well. So it is a RF regulatory body which has assigned an FCC ID to each thing that is transmitting. So um, again, you can go for the FCC ID. You can look up on this website and you can get what are the internals. They provide the picture of hardware as well as they will tell you what frequency is it working on. Next is via firmware. If you have, if you are able to successfully get the firmware out of the device, or if it is available on their support or their website, you can probably do a firmware analysis, firmware reverse engineering, and you can get what kind of frequency or the modulation is the device working on, if there is numerical computation being done in the firmware code. So next is the last resort, which is digging in the available ISM bands. So ISM bands, if you don't know, ISM bands are stands for industrial science and medicine bands. These are usually the frequency bands that are reserved for uh, commercial and non-commercial use. So by commercial, I mean like for the following purposes. If I am someone who is trying to make a door opener, so probably I can use uh, some frequency in the ISM band range. It could be like somewhere around 433 megahertz, or all the different available ISM frequency bands. So ISM frequency bands is also divided into different sections, and each band has been allotted or reserved for a particular section of the industry. So these were how you can, a few ways you can find the frequency of the uh, operating device or your target. Time for demonstration. So for demonstration, I'll show you how you can listen to, I mean, this is a very basic demonstration how you can listen to uh, radio using your SDR Sharp. So on the go, I'll also I'm going to tell you what was the frequency spread that we talked about. Basically, the spectrum analysis that we talked about, spread spectrum analysis. So I hope this video is visible to everyone. So this is a basic how basically how an SDR Sharp looks like. This is the alternative. This is not an alternative, but a tool for Windows, uh, to which it has a sister tool in Linux, which was called the GQRX. So this is how an SDR Sharp looks like. On top, you can see all the different frequencies as we saw in the GQRX, and you have something on the y-axis, which is the power of the signal. And here down, similar to GQRX, where we saw the black, uh, like black area, black area. This is similar to that. And there are a few more functionalities as compared to GQRX. So let's see. Basically, we'll first uh, try to uh, go through the spread spectrum, as in to get the different power ranges. Like for example, you can see these spikes, right? So these spikes basically tell you that there is some power of signal that is being available here. It could be very surely your white noise or any kind of other noise, but in most cases when you see a significant peak, you can say that some frequency, some signal is being transmitted on that frequency. So as you can see, there is a slider. There is this actually a numerical uh, inputter where you can put whatever frequency are you more interested in, and then you can probably use this slider or your scroll in order to scroll or switch between different frequencies. So this is radio 91.1. So as you can see, what we are able to see down here is the waterfall plot. So since this is FM that we are currently observing, so FM would have a very noticeable or a very different uh, like a waterfall plot compared to any other type of modulation. So right now this is uh, FM. So you can tinker around with the gain and everything as well. So right now, as you can see, we have improved the gain. So this is a more stronger signal, as you can see in the waterfall plot. So I think now I can show you a live signal analysis as well. Mm, just a second. So as you can see, this is your GNU Radio Companion 3.8. So I'll give you a quick overview of what is what in this. So this is again your simple utilities wherein you can play, you can debug, you know, you can copy, or you can everything to assist you making a flow graph and basically compiling and running it. On the right side, what you see are the different blocks that are a part of uh, the GNU Radio Companion. So in order to make any flow graph, for example, this, all you have to do is simply drag and drop uh, the block, and you know, you can set in the values in the fields, and if there is any variable value, you can use the variable block which is shown here, uh, and you can use these variable blocks in order to put any variable value that is required in any of your blocks, for example. So this is a basic again active FM analysis block. So Osmocom source is the HackRF one that I'm using right now. It is the source. What happens is it will go through the low pass filter, and it would cut off all the frequencies that are above uh, 100K. And then I have a QTGUI sync, which is basically a visual representation block which you need in order to, you know, visualize any of the operations. So now we'll try to run it. All right. So I had been facing some problem with my SDR front end lately. That is why I had to play a recorded demonstration, but I am again trying to fix this up. Yeah, so now as you can see, this is a frequency versus basically gain graph. And you know, since we had inculcated 2 GUI range, one of which represents the gain, so you can change the gain from this. You can switch to frequency using this. So this is more or less the same implementation of the GKRX that we just saw. So we had uh, used all the options that were available in the Qt GUI sync, for example, plot frequency, plot waterfall, plot time. So it gives us a waterfall display as well. It gives us a time domain display as well. And a constellation display. A constellation display is quadrature versus in phase, which is again a very deep topic to discuss. So in a nutshell, again, a signal has two elements, which one is the I and the other is the Q. I stands for the in phase and Q for the quadrature. So the correlation between those two is what makes up our raw binary data as well. So this is again a topic that you know we can discuss more in depth. But as of now, this is the implementation of what we just saw in the GQRX, and this is the live signal analysis. So you can try out different kind of attacks. As I said, replay being the most one of the most easiest of them. There are a lot of attacks that you can probably try out. This was something basic that I just wanted to show you based on the attack approach. And for the passive analysis, uh, I have some of the captures that I did previously. So this one is some I guess 11, yeah, I guess 11.5 megahertz. This is a capture from Radio Pakistan. So you can basically try out different analysis based on whether you're doing active signal analysis or a passive signal analysis. And you can do some signal processing on the captured waveform uh, as well. But most of those most of the output of the processing done on a waveform like dot VAV that I'm talking about, WAV, the audio capture, is basically a ballpark measure. So in order to get more accurate uh, insights from a signal, you know, capturing the raw binary is recommended as well. So you can perform uh, like uh, basically all the different techniques that are available, DSP techniques on that binary as well. And live is any day very efficient if you are working on data that is changing simultaneously. So now we'll look into uh, the next part, which is the wireless security. Uh, these are something that are majorly overlooked when the security is being like planned out for the radio frequencies, and some popular hacks that have happened over the time. uh, this is some snippet from the some news website. So what are the different type of techniques that you can use in order to get a more secure wireless communication? So first would be to have an FHSS like scheme. So a frequency hop is any day recommended as compared to transmitting at the same frequency, so that the attacker actually does not have much idea on what different channels or what is a model of frequency hopping. So he cannot basically keep listening to a single frequency, since you are not transmitting on that same frequency. Next would be to have an initial signal testing vector to check for tampers, which is quite similar to doing a sanity check, which is quite similar to your stack canary. Next would be to have a good, strong interference management mechanism. Interference or jamming is another very popular attack that takes place in the RF domain. So, uh, you know, use of correlational codes, um, or exchange of correlation codes between the receiver and transmitter, uh, in order to synchronize between both of these stations, would obviously help us a lot. And some of the examples are gold code, M code, and ZC sequence. Next is deploying protection mechanism in the error control blocks itself. So, uh, you know, uh, if there is some separate error correction mechanism, um, which can be trigged or something, you can any day put an error correction in the signal itself, so that there are error correction checks, and you don't get any uh, unwanted data, and the integrity of the data is maintained the whole time. Next is creating a friend or a foe like protection mechanism. So, um, you know again, when your radars communicate, basically your airplanes communicate with the base stations or the radar stations, they first, uh, basically the fighter jet communicates to the ATS. They basically um, exchange codes before starting the communication. Some of the example are COC codes or the IFF code. So this codes give an assurity that yes, like I'm communicating to the right person or the authorized person. Lastly is scan for the spectrum for unauthorized devices, which is pretty obvious. Before transmitting, you should any day scan your spectrum before transmission and see that if there is any other emission or any other kind of strong noise that is present on the frequency spectrum um, that you are planning to transmit upon. So some of the popular hacks, uh, there are a few protocol based vulnerabilities, like your bleeding blit, your sare tooth, and there was a few, like I remember a Zigbee worm in some Philips device. Apart from that, some basic attacks like rolling code attack, uh, which was presented in, I guess, AppSec California by Sami Kamkar, which is pretty popular RF attack, wherein if the code is changing every time, how you can do a counter for that. Then there is the most popular attack, which is the replay attack. All you do is basically get the signal, capture it, and retransmit it. It is as simple as that. Next, there were some mouse jacking and key sniffer attacks. So basically, um, all they did was take different samples of what, um, like for example, if I press 4 on my keyboard, what is being sent, and then probably replaying it and using it as a keylogger. So that was it for this presentation. I think I'm like over 25 minutes, but if you have any doubts or any queries, you can feel free to send across in the chat. I'll be more happy to answer that. So, yeah, there is this Easter egg. You can probably take a screenshot or whatever if you're getting started. These are a few good resources you can start from. And I think most of the people uh, who get started in RF uh, usually start out um, uh, with the Michael Osman videos. So feel free to connect. These are my Twitter handle and my email ID. So if you have any doubts, or if you uh, want to know more about what I just discussed or any other part, for example, the I and Q form of the signal, feel free to drop me at apar@pi2, and my Twitter handle is Shongpan. So that was it for the webinar actually. So if you have any doubts, You can feel free to ask. Mm, I see. All right. There is looks like some addition of some sort. White is out of fonts and add in the signal looks like. All right. The plots are not visible. Uh, which top plots are you exactly talking about, Aditya, Arun? The audio gain is very low. Yeah, the audio gain was very, very low. I think you're talking about the with regard to the active signal analysis that we just saw on the GRC, GNU Radio Companion. That was because probably the filter had a low gain. So that is probably the reason that it was not clearly visible. Plot windows are not visible to me as well. Okay, I think the plot windows were not visible because there was some problem in the sharing. Uh, Let me check if I can again show you the plot windows. I hope the plot windows are now a little more visible. So this is the frequency display. This is the waterfall diagram for the same. Again, as I said, it is a correlation between the frequency, the amplitude, and the time. This is the time domain display. This is the constellation display that we talked about, the relation between the in phase element and the quadrature phase element. So you can use a slider in order to see different frequencies, and so goes for the gain if you want to make changes. Uh, so this is quite similar setup to what we saw in the GQRX. You can any day perform any other operation in GNU Radio Companion, which you can do on any of the other tools. Yeah, so I think that was it from my side. I think Surendra, you can take over. Surendra or Pashik, any one of you can
Yes.
go.
Okay. So thank you everyone for tuning into the webinar. I would like to thank the speaker Apar for delivering such an insightful talk on software-defined radio. If you have any other queries, you can reach out to Apar via LinkedIn. I've dropped his LinkedIn handle in chat box. A big thank you to all the participants who are present here today and for being ever so active. A recording of the full webinar will be released and shared via social media, so make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for the webinar link and much, much more. So thank you, everyone.